Hi, welcome to the Murder Mukbang Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Brittany.
And tonight we have a very interesting story to discuss with you. It involves a police cover-up and an unsolved case a case that went unsolved for 41 years.
That's a long time.
And we're eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I have the Tonight Dough. I've actually never had this before.
Yeah, it's a good flavor.
So I'm super excited about it. It seems to have all of my favorite things in it. So I'm gonna dive right into it.
And I have just a regular cookie dough.
So there is a reason why we are only doing ice cream tonight, and we're about to tell you why.
So we're doing ice cream tonight because these murders took place in an ice cream parlor. In April of 1967, 19-year-old Connie Hevner, that's how you pronounce her last name, and 20-year-old Carolyn Perry were found shot in the head in the back of an ice cream parlor in Staunton, Virginia. Stanton.
It's not Staunton.
It's got a U in it. That's deceiving.
It is. Okay, so a little bit about the story before we go into it. Stanton is the town that I actually grew up in. Well, I technically didn't grow up in Stanton. I grew up in a town 15 minutes south of it, but Stanton was the place to go when I was a kid. So, and then plus I lived there for about 5 years after my husband and I got married. And we have a connection with the Stanton Police Department and also with the Stanton Rescue Squad. So that involves this case. So I'm super excited about it.
So I don't know if I'm sure I've been to Stanton. Like I've had to have gone there or at least driven through it. Is this ice cream place still there?
It is.
It is still there.
Well, no, technically I don't think that it is still an ice cream place. Like they still sell ice cream there. I'm sorry. Let me correct that. When I lived there 6 years ago, there was an ice cream store there that also sold other things. But even after these murders happened, there was still an ice cream store there.
But the building is still there.
Yep, the building is still there.
That these women were murdered in. The building is still there.
Yes.
So these two young women were shot in the head at the back of this ice cream store. Connie died immediately from her wounds, and Carolyn actually died a couple hours later at UVA hospital. There was $138 missing from the cash register. So the police just was like, is the robbery gone bad? Pretty much. There was a suspect, Gus Thomas, that was named, and he was named because he was actually seen nearby at a phone booth, like really close to the time of the murders. And Gus was also kind of an eccentric person, kind of like a little bit of a weirdo, and he had a history of getting in trouble with the police.
And he liked the attention.
So, even though there was no evidence that pointed to Gus, he was still arrested for the crimes. And prosecutors decided that they were going to only try to charge him for Connie's murder at first, because in case things went bad, they can try to go ahead and try him again for Carolyn's murder. Well, he was acquitted, and he was never brought back in for the second trial. The first officer on the scene, George Stevenson, he said that when he arrived at the ice cream parlor, he could tell right away that Connie was already dead, and that it was a bloody mess. They were found in the back room of the ice cream parlor. And he actually said that he could see that Carolyn was still living because she was breathing still, and he pretty much stayed with her.
Yeah, until she died.
Died.
I think he even said that he went to the emergency room with her, like when she was being transported, and then like when she was there and in the care of the doctors, he left and he's like, that was it. I just went back to my shift. Yeah. Which is extremely sad.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that guy went through.
Yeah.
Like once she died. My turn?
Yep.
Okay.
Your turn.
Sorry. I had a real busy weekend this weekend, so my brain is a bit fried.
Me too.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk about the investigation part of this, and it kind of is going to go from 1967 to 2006. So try to stick with me. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. So there was a police sergeant named David Bocock. He was, like we said, he was not the first police officer that was on the scene, but he was the initial investigator with this homicide. And he's the one who initially pointed the finger at this Gus Thomas guy. He's like, he did it, and we're about to find out why. So there's a lot that goes on in his police report. He basically, like, okay, so when you have a murder, you obviously have to write a report, okay? And he didn't give any, like, hardly any details with the murder. He basically wrote down driving directions, like, we turned left on Terry Court, we turned right onto whatever other street, and like it was like
a bunch of
the typical police report that you would see for a double homicide, especially in 1967 and especially in Stanton, because even when I lived there in 2008, like murders were not a thing that happened. Like, you know, yes, you had your bad people, but murders were not a thing.
So his report was full of just filler, babble nonsense.
So for 41 years, I'm sorry, actually it was 39 years, the case went unsolved. And if you don't know, after this Gus Thomas guy was let go, the case was unsolved, obviously. So within a police department, what happens is when you have an unsolved case, it just continues to get passed to other investigators over the years until somebody is hopefully able to break the case. So in 1980, this is where it gets so interesting. In 1980, there was an investigator who was working the case, and he was starting to get some information, and then all of a sudden he was transferred to another assignment, and the case went cold again. Like nothing else happened after that until 2006 when David Bocock passed away. And when he finally died, an eyewitness came forward and she said, I have some information regarding this murder case.
Some information.
And I actually discussed it with Sergeant Bocock the day after the murders happened. And so what her information was a woman named Diane Crawford, who was 19 at the time, showed this eyewitness 10 days before the murders actually happened, showed her a .25 caliber gun and said one of the bullets is reserved for Connie Hevner. So kind of suspicious, right?
Yeah.
And so this eyewitness took it to Sergeant Bocock the day after the day after the murders, and Bocock basically told her to fuck off, and nothing happened of it. He was like, I'm not dealing with this. You have your information wrong, and got swept under the rug. And so this eyewitness, I think she was actually kind of scared. Like I think she was intimidated enough that she didn't pursue it any further. She just kept her mouth shut.
Right.
And so then in 2006, when this information came out, she actually didn't even, I don't think she initially took it to the Stanton Police Department. She took it to a retired Stanton cop who was also a private investigator. His name was, I believe it was Roy Hartless. I wrote down Roy, but I can't remember if that was a typo. So I apologize if the name is wrong. But this private investigator Hartless, he started to dig up some information on this Dianne Crawford woman, because he's like, well, even though I work for the Stanton Police Department, it's time to maybe uncover some things that have been covered up for 40 years. And so he started looking into it, and he was able to track down Dianne Crawford to a nursing home in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is only like a half an hour north of Stanton. So she wasn't very far away at all. Even after 40 years, she was still within the area. And so let's talk about Diane Crawford a little bit. So she was a very complicated girl. In 1967, it was speculated that she was potentially a lesbian, which, obviously in 2020 is whatever. It's not that big of a deal. You can be whatever you want to be. But in 1967, that was a thing that, was not accepted, and people were making fun of her.
Yeah.
And so after the murders, she had spent some time in a mental institution, and then later on moved to Durham, North Carolina, where she got married, had a child, and then eventually she moved back to Virginia. She had gotten a divorce and moved back to Virginia. I'm assuming she moved to Harrisonburg, where she was actually like a nurse's aide or a hospital aide.
Mm-hmm.
But she also had a relationship with another woman at this time. So I guess she finally did come out of the closet and said, hey, yes, I am a lesbian, and carried on a relationship with somebody. But then, I'm sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. So in August of 2008, this private investigator, when he tracked her down to a nursing home because she was dying of kidney and heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was basically like her deathbed. Like, she was not doing well. And finally, after, like, the whole thing was kind of weird, and she like was contradicting herself a lot, and he kept pushing the issue, and she was saying, what, do you think I'm the one who did it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like she still wasn't giving a confession. Like, personally, I would think that if I was on my deathbed and an investigator came into my room and was like, hey, do you have any information on these murders? And be like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm the one who did it.
Yeah.
But I also am an honest person, so I don't know. People are different, I guess. And and finally, so the private investigators are not, they can't make an arrest or anything. So he had to actually contact the Stanton Police Department, and he had to push the issue pretty hard to get them to go and interview this Dianne Crawford. It was Dianne Crawford Smith, actually, is what her actual name is. But finally they were able to convince the police department to go and do an interview with her, which
and then that's where you get your deathbed confession. So she finally confessed to shooting the two women. She said she had went to the parlor that night because of a scheduling issue, and that she couldn't work the following night. Well, Hefner got really upset and started bullying her, calling her names, and one thing led to another, and she shot them both.
Yeah, I read that they got into like an altercation, like a pushing match.
Yeah.
Which I guess there were bruises on Connie's body that like didn't like match up with Connie just falling or anything. And so so
she said it wasn't premeditated, even though she took the gun to the ice cream parlor when she was just going there to talk about a scheduling issue. But she brought the gun with her. And then, previous 10 days prior to whatever, she said, this bullet is for this bitch.
Yeah. And so, I'm all for, like, carrying concealed. Like, I'm pro Second Amendment. But in 1967, I don't think that was, I'm not 100% sure, like, even when, like, concealed carry laws came into effect. But in 1967, you don't expect a 19-year-old girl to go into an ice cream parlor at 11 o'clock at night and have a gun. So what was she doing with that gun if it wasn't premeditated?
She was murdering. That's what she was doing.
It was premeditated, the dumb bitch. Yeah. So, there you have it. So, in Crawford's mind, what happened was she was being bullied and being teased about her sexual orientation. And she thought that Connie was the one who was doing the teasing and the bullying. And actually, like, I actually have written here that even though Crawford had never acted on her thoughts with her sexual orientation, it was obvious to Hefner, meaning Connie knew that Diane was a lesbian.
Yeah.
And so she was teasing her about it. So, and bullying is not okay. But killing people because you're being bullied is also not okay.
It's also not okay.
So, just throwing that out there.
Two wrongs don't make it right, people.
Exactly. So, what happened, so then after that, so she shoots them. She steals $138 from the register to make it look like it was a robbery.
Yep.
And then she goes out and she drives around. And I guess that's when the police were called and everything. Mm-hmm. She gives the gun to Bocock. Her and Bocock have a friendship. Like they know each other within the community. Mm-hmm. He taught her how to shoot. I'm a little unclear if he gave her the gun or he purchased the gun for her, but he shot. Can I talk? He taught her how to shoot the gun on his property.
Yeah.
And so she shoots the people. She's freaking out, and she gets a hold of Bocock, and she's like, "What do I do with the gun?" He takes it and he hides it and he buries it on his property.
Yep.
And then, of course, so the investigation goes cold because the police are involved, and the police can cover it up. And what are you going to do? Like, if you don't have this is 1967. If you don't have a murder weapon, DNA was not a thing. I'm sure they took fingerprints, but Diane's fingerprints were going to be in the ice cream shop because that's where she worked.
She worked there. Yep.
But any other DNA evidence was not even considered during that time period. And so it's just kind of strange, and then finally, like, if that eyewitness had not come forward and said, "This is what I know," then nobody would have ever continued to, like, this woman. What happened was that since she was dying of heart failure and kidney failure, they arrested her in January of 2009, and then that same month she passed away. Yeah. Like, she was arrested in December 2008, and she passed away in 2009. And like her trial date was set for like mid January, and she passed away right before it. But like, I believe that she would never have confessed.
She would have taken that to her grave.
And that's what pisses me off about this woman. I understand, like, they were bullying her and they were teasing her, and like, I feel bad for her because of that, but she murdered them
in cold blood,
and then kept it quiet for 41 years. And then even still, like, apparently the investigation, there's a book called Who Killed the Girls by Jane Bell. It's on Amazon. I haven't actually read it yet, but I was able to get like a little sample of the book. And it has, I guess the author was able to get transcripts of like the interview and the investigation, and it has the whole conversation between Heartless, this other investigator, transferred to another assignment. And but yeah, it's like, it took her a while to finally be like, okay, yeah, you know what? I did it. I did it because I was being bullied, and it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
So I don't know. This was a very close to home case. In 2008 and 2009, that's when my husband was actually working for the Stanton Police Department. Like, he was a new recruit for them, and pretty sketchy shit. So
we're not going to talk
probably shouldn't have said that.
We're not going to go into that. Some things are better left kept secrets, you know.
So that's it. That's our High's Ice Cream. It's called the High's Ice Cream Murders. And so these two young ladies lost their lives because somebody was angry at them.
Yeah, I love ice cream, and I would hate to die. Actually, Could they haunt the ice cream parlor afterwards?
Haunt it?
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that's where they died.
I mean, if I'm going to die,
you want to die in an ice cream parlor?
Might as well.
Get yourself some soft serve whenever you
Yep.
feel like it.
Yep, exactly.
Well,
there's worse ways to die, I guess.
Yeah, like being eaten by another human being.
That is true.
Yeah.
So, that's our case this week,
That's
guys.
our case. It's a super short video.
We're gonna try out. We're gonna try out a short one every now and again instead of doing these
super long,
almost hour-long videos, because I know some of our audience, has a difficult time watching that.
Some people only watch the first 5 minutes of our video.
Yes.
That's okay. I do the same thing. There is something called 2 times speed.
Double speed.
Double
speed these videos, guys. If you don't know how to do it, in the little upper right-hand corner of your YouTube video, there's 3 little dots. You click that, it goes to playback speed, and you can speed the videos up. That's how I watch all YouTube.
Yeah. I don't watch it on 2 speed because I can't understand them.
You get used to it after a while.
No,
now I feel like when I watch my normal channels that I watch, if I watch them on regular speed, I feel like they're talking so slow that it drives me crazy. So I gotta speed it up. Your brain will get used to them talking so fast after a while.
Okay. Well, and next week we're actually not going to do a video because it's Father's Day and we both have plans. And so it's going to be a couple weeks before we actually get in there and do another video. We might do a longer one next time. I know that we have several ideas, like possibly Waco, or I don't know, who else do you want to do? H.H. Holmes might be a good one.
That's what I was thinking.
If you guys have any recommendations on who you want us to talk about, drop a comment below and let us know. And somebody that we haven't heard of, and we can do a little bit of research on it and share your thoughts on it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry it was kind of all over the place. It was kind of a hectic weekend for both of us. Yeah. I was gone all weekend, and I know what she was doing all weekend.
I was having fun. That's what I was doing.
Okay. I was visiting family who I haven't seen since Christmas time, and it was very nice to see them. So it was nice to get out and see those wonderful people.
Yeah.
Okay. So
all right, guys.
Have a great week. Hit subscribe, hit like, let us know what you think. Yep. Sorry again that it was kind of all over the place, but we're still kind of learning this whole thing. Thanks for being patient, and thanks for watching.
All right, guys.
This has been the Murder Mukbang Show. You kill them,
we grill them.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.